Oh, I can see. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it in the distance. It's so scary on this map. The forest just like starts. There's like a wall.
Of trees.
Yeah. And like that, you know, if you go any further south of this, it's just like nothing. Like no buildings.
Yeah.
It is just all forest. I wonder what road that is.
What if we get attacked by a bear?
Yeah, right? Alright, now we just gotta find a... I feel like we're deep enough. Just gotta find a flat spot where we can sit. I hope you know, at the cost of finding a good spot, I am taking us into the middle of nowhere.
Fine. What about right here? Kind of flat right here, isn't it?
Alright, this works, you're right.
I saw your name and then you just backed into darkness.
Place it like right there.
Crafting fireplace.
Uh-oh.
It's over here, I think.
You hear that heli crash?
Yeah, it's on me.
I got it. You hear that heli crash?
Yeah.
Very tempting. Where's my freaking kniffy, mate?
Give me a steak.
Gotta sharpen it.
I knew.
Might put this glow stick away. Here we are.
Oh, the plan's coming to fruition.
Did you pick up some of those steaks?
Yeah, I already brought them over to my side. Is there more?
Oh, there's two. Alright. Pick a spot, any spot.
I'm sitting here, right above my meat.
And I shall sit right here. Let's see. Takes a second to heat up. Well,
Yeah.
while we are waiting, I shall introduce my guest of honor, Mr. Hal. He's from 22 years young, part owner of his father-son business, I totally made that name up and I'm not sure if it's right. They operate all over, which is also a guess. Hal is the son of Hal and brother of two older siblings. We met at West around 2016 and have been close acquaintances ever since. The second semester of senior year, Hal graduated early and began his journey at his father's electrician business. He picked up the trade fast and rose to the top even faster, and soon became the youngest and one of the highest ranking members in his trade. And we will bust right into these questions here. So today I'm going to be asking you about your role in leadership in your business. And first question on the docket are, what skills and strengths do you possess that allow you to lead effectively?
I would say one of the main things is just talking to people. I find it really easy to talk with people on any level, whether they're above me, if you'll say it like that, in like the bracket.
Of
Like
course.
when we're dealing with customers or general contractors, I feel comfortable talking to them because I know my trade so well and I can explain my trade so well. So just being
Right.
able to communicate your knowledge of what you're dealing with is really important, I think.
Of course. And that just leads straight into the next question. How do you approach like older team members, like when presented with an issue or something like that? Because obviously most of the people you're working with are significantly older than you.
Yeah, so like if an older person in my trade makes a mistake or something like that
Of
kind of
course.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that hard because, you know, usually these guys who are working the trades, they're pretty down-to-earth people and they don't, you know, have any qualms with being told a new way to do something or if they did it wrong, that they did it wrong.
Right.
So you just kind of have to go at it with respect and not just be like, you're dumb for doing this. Just be like, hey, this is messed up. Here's why, and here's why we do it this way. You know what I mean?
Right. That totally makes sense. Now, and I think I know the answer to this question, but have you ever had to like apprentice a younger team member or anything like that? Or are you strictly been like with older folk?
Yeah, no. So our buddy Matt, who we've been friends with since high school, just the same as you and I, came to work for us for about 6 months. So he was apprenticed mainly under me. My father had nothing to do with it, and my coworker had nothing to do with it. I was solely in charge of Matthew. And I think it was a very big learning experience for me because I'd never led anybody up until that point. That was my first time, like
Yeah,
really showing somebody the trade and explaining it to them. So now I kind of have a better understanding of how to do it and what I should have done differently with him.
right.
Um, but as a whole, I think I did a pretty alright job with it, especially in the trades when you're apprenticing somebody or being a leader to somebody like that and teaching them the trade. You kind of have to let them make their own mistakes along the way.
Well, of course.
So like you can't just say do this. You kind of and tell them exactly how to do it. You kind of show them what to do, and then you say for an electrician like, all right, I want you to go wire this room. Boxes are all laid out. That's a receptacle. Your switches are here. They go up to there. That's a smoke detector, and you just kind of watch them and see what they do. And if they mess it up a little bit, you don't immediately jump them for it. You let them make the mistake, and then what I like to do is say, okay, everything looks good except this. This one thing is wrong. I want you to fix it. Here's how you fix it, and here's why I need you to fix it. Here's what's wrong with it.
Right.
And just taking that extra time to explain exactly why instead of just being like, this is wrong, you messed it up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this kind of ties more into the second question, but do you think you've ever like faced retaliation due to your age and like your standing in your company?
Um, a little bit. I think when homeowners meet me, they get kind of caught off guard because I'm so young. And
Right.
I, like I said before, I'm at work, so I've been doing this for what, like 7 years now.
Right.
So I have a pretty good handle on things, and I know how my dad likes to deal with stuff. So I'll talk to the homeowners, whereas other apprentices or people under other tradesmen will just cower from them. So I think they get a little bit confused when I walk up and I'm like, hey, I'm Hal Gordon. I'm doing your wiring and stuff, and I'm talking to them about what they want and what we can do for them.
Right.
But as a whole, I don't feel like any of the other trades or anything have really put me down for it. I think they
Right.
respect that I'm so young and I am good at what I do, so they kind of show me that respect.
Right. I think that's very difficult to catch from an older audience.
Yeah.
Now, we might have to pause this interview for just 1 second.
Yeah, we do.
I think we're clear. Alrighty.
Wow, exactly what we said was gonna happen.
I'll just lay right back on down.
Alright. So rudely interrupted.
Yeah, for real. Alright. So, how... This is going to be a little basic, but how would you describe your approach to leadership?
I would say it'd be kind of like a hands-off, like I said, because you tell somebody how to do something, you can explain it over and over again, right? But at the end of the day, people are going to choose their own way to do something, whatever's easiest for them.
Right.
So you kind of just have to let them figure that out for themselves. But if something has to be a certain way, and it absolutely needs to be, you have to be able to put your foot down and say, listen, I know you like to do it like this, but this is how we do it because it saves us time and money.
Right, of course.
The best way, like the best example of that would be like on a receptacle. The way receptacles are wired, and they're all the same manufacturer-wise, they have 2 silver screws on the left and 2 gold screws on the right, and a ground screw on the left. So the silver screws correspond to your neutrals, which are your white wires. The gold screws correspond to your hots, which are your black wires. And so when we're going through a rough-in job, which is where, you know, there's no walls up or anything,
Right.
or no sheetrock up or anything, and you're wiring it up, and when you go to make joints, which is when you're twisting all the wires together and stuff, we find it's very helpful if you put everything on the right side that it goes to in those situations. So your ground is on the left with your neutrals, and then your hots are on the right.
Right.
And it just saves the trim guy behind you a little bit of extra time of trying to figure out what's going on in that box.
Right, exactly.
And there's stuff like that throughout the electrical trade where if you just put a little time and thought into it before it gets to that point, you can save the other guy some time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now, like, when it comes to situations like that, like, obviously, like, you kind of got to keep everyone on the same track. And what does, like, team motivation look like? Like, is it purely monetary? Like, you know, we get paid on this day, this week. Like, let's work towards that, or is it more of a like operational approach, trying to figure out like what's wrong with the house? Let's fix these problems. Let's do these things, etc., etc.
Yeah, you might need to up your microphone volume a little bit, by the way.
I'll move it a little bit closer.
But, no, yeah, I think it's a lot of that, what you said, where we all know we're getting paid the same time, the same week. You know, that's motivation in it of itself.
Right.
We always know our money's coming. You know?
Of course.
And then there is the aspect of it where, for us, the biggest motivation, I think, is that we work so well together. There's only 3 of us, and we've all known each other forever. I mean, one of them's my father.
Yeah.
And one of them's a guy I've known since I was like 5 years old. So we kind of mesh well together, and one of the biggest motivations for me, at least, in the whole thing, and how I try to motivate Niles, my coworker, and my dad, is if like we're having a bad day, we'll shoot jokes at each other and just keep the mood a little lighter. So that, you know, if something bad happens, if you slit open your hand while you're stripping out some wire or something, you can joke about it and have fun still, even though you're bleeding.
Of course.
So just keeping the mood light kind of keeps morale up.
Now, I feel like you've definitely kind of answered this with some of your examples, but like in what scenarios, like specifically, do you think you've had to step up as a leader outside of your profession, perhaps?
Okay.
Maybe in friend groups or you
in
know,
friend groups.
just in social settings.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, there's certain situations that you and I have definitely experienced both in friend groups and stuff where people just don't get along sometimes, and it kind of brings down the mood of a group.
Of
And I think
course.
everybody's experienced that before where, somebody's just not vibing well with who you're hanging out with at the moment, and usually it won't get to a point where there's conflict actually, but if there is, I feel like I'm very comfortable standing up and being like, dude, we have to stop this.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
this is getting in the way of us having a good time as a group, or at work, if somebody's having a really bad day, you have to be able to go up to that guy and be like, hey man, I can tell you're having a hard time, like, take 5. Get out of here and get your head right for a second, and come back and get back at it.
Right. Exactly. Now, and again, we've touched on this as well, but like in your experience, like what role does communication play on like getting a job done and like your effectiveness overall?
I'd say it's the most important thing. If you can't communicate to your people what needs to be done and like what you expect of them, then it's not going to get done. You have to be able to explain how to do what you want done, why, and all that. If you just walk up to a guy and say, I need this done like this, and if they ask you why, you just say, because I told you to, that's not going to get the desired result. They're going to end up hating you, and they're not going to enjoy working, and that's going to bring productivity down, or
Yep,
quality of work as well.
absolutely. Now, kind of tying to that one, what do you think would be an example of like one of your greatest leadership challenges? You can
I would
think about that.
yeah, let me think about that one for a second. I would definitely go back to the example I used earlier with Matthew, our friend, because like I said, that was my first time really leading somebody, and I made mistakes for sure, but the biggest challenge of it was that we were friends, and like keeping it kind of separated and being able to at the end of the day be like, that's work, this is our personal lives, you know what I mean?
Right,
And that's a hard thing to do between friends, especially when one guy is definitely over the other guy. At that point, I had like 4 years of experience on him,
right,
like actual full-time work experience.
right. And then
And I'd been
being on
working
the same
summers
social
before
level.
that. Yeah. So that was really difficult, and like I think it did drive us apart a little bit there. And that's hard to see your personal relationships fail a little bit because of work.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, we're both adults, and we dealt with it, and we're good
agreed.
now, so I'm happy about that.
Absolutely. Now, how are you, as a small team, able to like balance time constraints, budget, and trying to manage resources?
That's a good question. It's because we all know our jobs and we know our roles. So like before we even get to a house, my dad who has like 40 plus years doing this, by the way. He's got over half of his life in the electrical trades.
Right,
So first he'll walk through the house and he's looking at everything that he's got to do, and he's looking at all the problems that might cause us problems, like with framing and plumbing and stuff like that. Because with electrical, you want to be last so you can go around everything, because we have small wires, but HVAC and plumbing have big pipes and like flex and ductwork and stuff. They can't, wherever they put those, they have to be. So my dad will walk through and see it all, and then he'll walk us through it, and we'll talk about it, get a material list, go get material, and then once we have all the stuff there to do it, we all know our jobs.
right,
So like, I'll start upstairs in a house, Niles will start downstairs, and we just kind of meet in the middle. And as we're going along, my dad is starting to make joints and looking at circuitry, and we're all looking to see if anybody's made a mistake, because stuff happens. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing something, something might slip your mind one day. So it helps to have 6 pairs of eyes watching it.
Yeah.
So just the fact that we all have worked so long together and for so long, and we've dealt with those time constraints before, and none of us are afraid to work overtime or anything. Like, if we have to get it done, it's gonna get done.
Right, exactly. And can you describe an event where you would say you had to make like a difficult decision on site?
Oh.
Or would you say it's been relatively easy going?
There's been a few situations where like I said earlier, have had to deal with homeowners who weren't exactly amenable.
Yeah.
Like, they just didn't want to work with me. And in electrical, sometimes at certain points you have to say that's not possible.
Right.
So, like, if you rough in a house one way and then it gets to trim out and these people are asking for something that we knew nothing about, it's not wired for that. It's gonna take us 3 hours to get done what they want done. You just have to say, I can't do that. Maybe we can come back and do it as extra later after you're moved in, but right now, closing is in a week and we can't get that done for you.
Right.
Recently, actually, we did a renovation for this woman in Fletcher, and we roughed it in a day. It was a pretty simple job, easy to do. And we come back to do the trim out, and she comes downstairs where the renovation is. It's in the basement, and she's asking me to put up a mirror in the bathroom that has lighting on it.
Right.
And we knew nothing about it. We had no idea that that was even a thing that was on the table. And I have to look at this lady and be like, that light is not going to work. And she's like, why? Why won't it work? Because we didn't wire for it. You didn't tell us. We can do it later. All that stuff, like I said. And she was quite nice about it. A lot of people get a big head about stuff because they're like, well, I'm the homeowner. I'm paying you. You should do
Right.
what I want. But it's just not possible.
Right. I gotcha. Now, I would, how does context influence the way you lead? And what I mean by that is like knowing your team members and knowing like their day-to-day lives and such, and just having them be like a really like lasting part of your environment. You're around them a lot.
Yeah. So, like, being aware of what's going on in their home lives and stuff. Is that what you mean? Like, that's absolutely important, because if you've got a guy come in one morning and he's just tore up about something and you don't know what, you have to be comfortable talking to him about it. You can't just let him stew on whatever he's got going on, because you're there to work.
Right.
We're there to get stuff done. So it helps to have these personal relationships with the people you work with or who work under you, so that you can ask them those questions, like, you got something going on at home? Is everything okay? Do you need to take the day off? Like,
Right.
what's going on? And you can talk it out and see if they can continue working or not. Or if it would be better off if they just went home. Because sometimes human beings get tore up about stuff and they just don't work as well, you know?
Right. Of course.
So like, if that happens, you have to be able to talk to them about it and say, hey man, I seriously think that you're going through it right now. You should just go home, take the day, get your mind right, and we'll take care of this.
Yeah. Now, building off that, what ways have you grown to understand, building off that, like, understanding others, but also in what ways have you, like, grown to understand yourself working on the site?
One of the biggest things is you have to know that everybody goes through stuff at some times. And
Yep.
if somebody comes at you on a job site one day, it might not be just because they don't like you or they think what you did is absolutely awful. Like, they could absolutely be going through it. But I've had to grow as a person and try not to take stuff like that so personal.
Right.
And, like, when people say I've done something wrong or something, to have the confidence to be like, no, I know what I did there.
Right.
I did not mess that up. Because, you know, a lot of stuff can happen in a house while we're not there, in between rough in and trim out. So I have to keep a, like, mental ledger of what I've done in this house and be able to think back, like, 4 houses ago about something I did. And, be able to tell people concretely that this is what happened. I'm going to find out what's wrong, but it wasn't me.
Right.
And if it is you, being able to throw your hands up and saying, I made a mistake, that is absolutely on me, and I
Right.
will fix this problem.
Absolutely. Now, lastly, like working a manual labor job and being a leader in the position that you are, like, how do you think that's affected, you know, your free time and outside life?
For me, I'm definitely in the minority on this one, I think, but it hasn't affected me very much. Mainly because my dad worked for years for electrical companies where he'd wake up at, 5 a.m., have to be on site at 6, and then they'd have him have to sign up to do service work on weekends. Like, it was required. You have to be available 24 hours a day on weekends to do service work. And he never wanted that environment for anybody who works under him or for him, and I don't either. So we don't do stuff like that. We don't do 24-hour service work. If you see an HGES truck, that's our name, by the way, HGES, not HG Electrical.
I told you, I guessed.
Yeah. But if you see an HGES truck going around, you'll never see it say 24-hour service, because we don't do it. So that we can keep that free time and, like we said, keep morale up. Because if you got guys working 40+ hours a week and you require them to do 24-hour service work, they're gonna be down. Like, a human being can only work so much before they just get burnt out.
Yep, that is very true. Well, good sir.
Especially in manual labor. Sorry, I had to get that one in there.
No, my bad. I apologize.
You're fine.
I appreciate your service, and I appreciate you letting me ask you your questions. No, I'm saluting you. Currently.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Standing up in my room.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts?
No, I think I'm good, brother.
Well, thank you very much.
Very good questions.